It is a strange thing, isn't it, to experience a relationship with someone who should be one of the closest to you, yet instead seems to become a constant source of turmoil and hurt. Family is meant to be a place of refuge, a source of love and security, yet sometimes, in the most painful of ironies, a family member can act as a force that seems to drag you down. The weight of their presence can feel suffocating, and the sting of their words or actions can hurt more than the blows of any stranger. Yet, when we find ourselves in such a situation, there are quiet, hidden signs, small but unmistakable, that tell us we are being protected, that God, in His infinite wisdom, is watching over us, guiding us away from harm, even when the world around us feels uncertain and hostile. First, one of the clearest signs of divine protection is the feeling of peace that comes even in moments of distress. It is not a peace that is born out of comfort, nor is it one that simply ignores the difficulty at hand. No, it is a peace that transcends the moment, one that settles into your heart despite the chaos swirling around you. You might find yourself in the middle of a confrontation or caught in the web of negativity spun by this family member, and yet there remains a quiet assurance within you, a sense that somehow you are safe. This peace is not a natural thing. It's not the absence of conflict, but rather a sign that God's hand is at work, offering protection in ways that are invisible, even intangible. You might wonder, how can this be? How can we feel peace when everything seems so wrong? The answer lies in the deeper truth that peace comes not from the absence of struggle, but from the presence of something greater than the struggle itself. There's a quiet reminder that you are not alone, that someone watches over you, even in your lowest moments. God, who knows the depths of your heart and the weight of your burdens, is there, whispering peace into your soul, holding you close, and reminding you that no matter how difficult the circumstances may appear, there is always a way forward, a way out, a path to healing. Another sign that God is protecting you in this difficult relationship is the gradual fading of any attachment to the toxic dynamics. It might be hard at first, especially if this family member has been a part of your life for so long. Perhaps there was a time when their presence meant security, when their words meant wisdom and their actions meant care. But slowly you begin to notice something change. The things that once hurt so deeply no longer affect you in the same way. You feel a distance growing between you and the pain they cause, as if you are slowly being set apart, gently but firmly. This is not something you do consciously. It's as if your heart, guided by a divine hand, begins to detach from the negativity, to retreat from the harm that was once so readily accepted. At times, this process may feel like a form of rejection. After all, it's a painful thing to distance yourself from a family member, even when you know it is for your own good. But the truth is that God is not abandoning you to isolation. Rather, He is freeing you from the emotional prison that has been built by someone else's bitterness, anger, or negativity. He is opening a way for you to grow, to find peace, and to rediscover your own worth and dignity outside the shadows cast by the harmful actions of another. This sense of detachment, though, is not about a lack of love. In fact, it is often the exact opposite. As God works within you, He may inspire a deeper, more genuine love for the family member, one that is not tied to their actions, but to their inherent worth as a person. It is a love that allows you to see them through the eyes of compassion, even when you must separate yourself from their toxicity. This love is the kind that releases you from resentment, allowing you to pray for them, to hope for their healing, while also giving you the courage to protect yourself from further harm. Another sign of divine protection is the sudden appearance of new sources of support, people who lift you up in the ways that you've needed, often in unexpected places. The isolation that once seemed inevitable begins to give way to new friendships, new connections, people who encourage you, validate your feelings, and offer you the care and understanding you've lacked. These relationships may not be familial, but they are no less powerful. They are evidence that God, in His grace, is bringing into your life those who will walk alongside you in this difficult journey. He is sending you reminders that you are not alone, that you are worthy of love and respect, and that there are others who see you as you truly are, without the distortions caused by the negativity of a family member who has hurt you. This new support does not always come in the form of close friends either. Sometimes it can be a colleague, a neighbor, or even a stranger who speaks the right words at the right time, offering you encouragement and kindness. The key here is not that these people will solve all your problems or take away the pain, but that their presence is a sign that God is at work. He is surrounding you with love and support, even in places where you least expect it. There may also be moments when, through no conscious effort of your own, you begin to notice that you are making decisions that are in alignment with your own well-being, and not out of fear or obligation. You start to find the strength to say no when you are asked to sacrifice your peace for the sake of someone else's comfort. You begin to make choices that prioritize your emotional and mental health, even if it means disappointing or upsetting those around you. This newfound strength is not from your own power. It is a sign of God's protection. He is teaching you how to stand firm in your own worth, how to draw boundaries that preserve your peace, and how to walk away from the things that would drag you down. This is not always an easy process, and it can bring its own pain. But it is also a sign that God is working in you, guiding you to a place of strength and resilience. It is in these moments of self-care and self-respect that you begin to see the protective work of God in your life. You are learning to say no to what harms you and yes to what nurtures your soul. And in this, you find not only protection, but growth. A growth that brings you closer to the person God created you to be. Perhaps the most profound sign that God is protecting you from a family member who brings you down is the quiet assurance that, despite everything, you are not defined by their words or actions. You may find that, over time, your sense of identity shifts. No longer are you weighed down by their criticisms, their judgments, or their negative influence. Instead, you begin to recognize that your worth comes from something deeper, something unshakable, your identity as a child of God. You are not defined by the flaws or the dysfunctions of your family. You are defined by the love and grace that God has poured into you. This realization might come slowly, but when it does, it is a powerful revelation. You begin to see yourself as God sees you, not as the person your family member may have tried to make you feel like, but as someone worthy of dignity, respect, and love. This shift in perspective is one of the clearest signs that God is actively protecting you. You are free, and you are loved. When we experience difficulty in relationships with those we love, it can be easy to feel as if God has abandoned us, as if He is distant and unmoved by our pain. But in reality, He is always near. He is with us in the struggles, guiding us, protecting us, and offering us the strength we need to rise above the harm that others may bring into our lives. Even in our darkest moments, He is there, whispering peace, providing strength, and leading us toward healing. And as we walk through these trials, we are reminded that we are never alone, that God is always working in the background, protecting us and drawing us ever closer to His perfect love. As we continue through life's trials, particularly in our relationships with family members who seem to weigh us down, it's easy to feel isolated or misunderstood. The world around us may seem overwhelming at times, and the burdens we carry can feel unbearable. But even in these times, it is crucial to remember that God's protection often comes in ways we may not immediately recognize. He does not abandon us when we are in the midst of these painful situations. Rather, He surrounds us with His care in subtle and profound ways that we might not always be able to see in the moment. There are times when God's protection is felt in the simple act of being able to endure the emotional strain. In the past, you may have crumbled under the weight of cruel words or manipulative behavior, unable to find any way out of the cycle. But now, you find that you are able to take a step back. You breathe more easily, despite the tension that may exist around you. There is an inner strength that you did not know you had. You may even surprise yourself, as your own response to the situation becomes one of calmness instead of distress. This is not your own strength. This is the work of God, quietly and patiently fortifying you from within, allowing you to stand firm without breaking. It is also important to recognize that God's protection often works through moments of wisdom and discernment. There are times when, in the midst of confusion or emotional turmoil, you find yourself being given insight into the true nature of the situation. Suddenly, you begin to see clearly where you were once blind. You understand the root cause of the conflict, not just on a surface level, but on a deeper spiritual level. It's almost as if you've been given new eyes to see with, eyes that can see beyond the hurtful actions of others to the deeper truth of the situation. This wisdom helps you to navigate the storm more effectively, to make decisions that will protect your peace, and to avoid being swept away by the tides of manipulation and hurt. What is so remarkable about this divine protection is that it does not always come with grand gestures or miraculous interventions. Instead, it often shows up in the small, quiet moments. Perhaps you find yourself recalling a verse or a prayer at the right moment when you need it most, or perhaps you suddenly find a surge of strength or courage to walk away from a conversation that would have otherwise left you drained and disillusioned. These seemingly small occurrences are actually signs of God's protection at work. They are the everyday miracles that shape your ability to persevere, to endure, and to rise above the circumstances that would otherwise keep you bound. Another powerful way that God's protection manifests is through the lessons that you learn in these difficult relationships. As painful as it may seem, God uses the struggles we face with those closest to us to teach us more about ourselves and our own growth. He reveals to us the areas where we may have been blind to our own weaknesses, and He gives us the opportunity to address them. In the process, you may find that you are becoming a stronger, more compassionate person, someone who understands not only their own worth, but the worth of others as well. In some cases, God may even be working in the other person's life, preparing them for change. You may not be able to see it right away, but the very pain you are experiencing could be part of the process of healing for both of you. While you focus on your own protection and healing, God is at work in ways you cannot yet understand, possibly softening the heart of the family member who has caused you so much pain. This does not mean that you should stay in an unhealthy situation or continue to put yourself at risk. But it does mean that even in the most broken of relationships, there is the potential for redemption, healing, and transformation. God's timing and His work may surprise you when you least expect it. At the same time, there are moments when God's protection is seen in His ability to let us experience the consequences of a situation without letting us be destroyed by it. There may be times when we must face hard truths and endure the discomfort of change, but these experiences, though difficult, are often part of God's loving correction. He doesn't shield us from all pain, because some pain is necessary for growth. What He does offer, however, is the promise that we will not be overcome by the suffering, that we will not be left to carry it alone. Instead, He provides us with the strength to endure, the wisdom to navigate, and the hope that healing is on the other side of the struggle. Perhaps the most profound realization in all of this is that God's protection doesn't only keep us from the harm of others, but also from our own destructive tendencies. In toxic relationships, it is easy to become entangled in the emotional chaos, to respond in kind with anger, bitterness, or resentment. We may even begin to believe that these emotions are justified, that they are the only appropriate response. Yet, God's protection often shows itself in the way He helps us to rise above these reactions, to keep our hearts from becoming hardened, and to retain our compassion and empathy. He teaches us that our identity is not shaped by the conflict, but by His love, and in doing so, He preserves our hearts. This protection is not always immediate, nor is it without struggle. Sometimes the process of being protected from harm is itself a painful journey, one that calls us to confront parts of ourselves we would rather avoid. But in the end, this journey leads us to a deeper understanding of who we are and who we are meant to be. God's protection is a process of transformation, not just preservation. He is shaping us into people who can withstand the storms, who can stand firm in the face of adversity, and who can, in time, offer the same protection and love to others who are caught in the same struggles. In moments of deep reflection, we come to realize that, through it all, God has never left us. Even when it feels as though we are abandoned, when it seems as though no one understands the pain we are enduring, He is always there. In the silence, in the quiet moments of prayer and surrender, He is speaking to us, reassuring us that we are protected, that we are loved, and that He will carry us through the storm. And so, while the road may be long and the challenges many, there is one thing that remains steadfast: God's protection. His love, unwavering and unshakable, surrounds us, guiding us, lifting us up, and leading us toward healing. When the world seems to be crashing down around us, when family members seem determined to tear us apart, we can trust that we are held in His hands. We are never truly alone, and His protection will see us through to the other side, where we will emerge stronger, wiser, and more deeply connected to the love that will never fail us. As we reflect on the journey through the pain and struggles of relationships that bring us down, particularly with those closest to us, we are reminded of one essential truth: God's protection is not just a shield that keeps us from harm, but a force that transforms us from within. It is in those moments of hardship, when we feel most vulnerable and isolated, that His presence is often most profoundly felt. His peace, His wisdom, His strength, and His love guide us through the storm and lead us toward healing. Even in the darkest times, when it seems as though everything is working against us, we are never abandoned. God, in His infinite care and understanding, watches over us, lifting us when we fall, strengthening us when we grow weary, and gently leading us to the place where we can stand firm in who we are, loved, valued, and worthy of peace. His protection is not just in what he prevents from reaching us, but in how he helps us rise above it, teaching us resilience, grace, and the capacity to love, even in the face of adversity. So, when you find yourself weighed down by the negativity and harm of a family member who brings you down, remember this: you are not defined by their actions or words. You are defined by the love and protection that God has for you. He will not leave you in your pain. He will not abandon you in your struggles. You are held in His hands, and He will guide you to a place of healing, strength, and peace. Trust that He is working behind the scenes, transforming you and leading you toward a future where you stand tall, not because of the absence of difficulty, but because of the unwavering love and protection that He offers you every step of the way. With God by your side, you are never alone, and with each step forward, you are growing stronger, wiser, and more capable of loving not just others, but yourself in the way that God loves you. Let that be your strength, and let that be your reminder. His protection will always see you through.